Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Miami Hurricanes as we continue along with our preview series. As always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We could be talking about your favorite team during our preview series. We're on team 5 or 6 right now, so it's been pretty fun trying to get back to the swing of things. This is our second year of doing our preview series. So with that being said, we are going to take a look before we preview the actual 2024 team. We're going to take a look at kind of our predictions for them last year and where we each had them. So I obviously had Miami going 9-3. You had them going 8-4. We both. I was obviously too generous. You were a little too generous. They went 7-5 through the regular season and lost to Rutgers in the bowl game. I picked 8 games right. You picked 9. So you did a better job with Miami than I did. Obviously, I had them beating Georgia Tech, and so did you. And that was a crazy game. We'll talk about that as we preview. We obviously both have them losing to North Carolina. And obviously got that was right. Clemson, the Clemson game, we both had them losing to Clemson, and they beat, obviously, my Clemson Tigers in double overtime down in Miami. The Florida State game, obviously, they both lost there. Louisville, I was very high on Louisville, but I actually had them beating Louisville. And then Louisville ended up beating them last year. Even that was the one or two losses I think I had Louisville losing last year. So the fact that they were able to sneak that game out is kind of interesting. But what is your kind of takeaway from your prediction on them last year before we get started on this year's preview?
So last year, probably did a little bit better than I thought. 7-5. Well, I won't say better than I thought because obviously I had them 8-4 and they were 7-5. But they had kind of an up and down season. They beat some teams that I didn't think they were going to beat. That Clemson game I think was really big. And that's where I kind of said the better than I thought. Texas A&M was a game that I picked them in, but they did really well there. But there were some teams that just snuck up on them that I didn't necessarily suspect would be that good last year, like NC State. Georgia Tech ended up not being a bad team. So they had a really up and down season. I don't think Miami for Miami 7-5 meets the mustard. That's a down year for Miami. I think the expectation with the history that Miami has is 10-win seasons, competing for the ACC, competing for the national championship. And obviously that wasn't the case last year. So yeah, I missed the mark. I picked 9 of 12 correct. But I still missed the mark, especially in comparison to the team that we did yesterday. But what's your thoughts on how you did?
I kind of want to say, I want to explain this really quick before we go on, because we're going to be doing this so often now with the previews. So if you see a team's name in green, that means we picked Miami to beat them. If you see the name in red, we picked them to lose. Next to it, if there's a check mark.
I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, the check mark means that we got the game correct. The X means that we got the game wrong. So obviously, if you see where you have Georgia Tech green for both of us, but the X, that means that we thought they were going to win and they lost. So we got that game wrong. Now, if you see, obviously, we had North Carolina winning and you see the check or North Carolina losing or beating them beating North Carolina won the game. So there's a check because we all got that right. So just to kind of clear that up, because I know it's a little bit confusing, but that's just the way we're going to kind of do it. So again, I got 8 games right. You got 9 games right. But just to kind of dive into this year's Miami team, obviously, we just talked about their 2023 results. They're coming in top 25 team based on ESPN with a projection of 8-4, with almost pretty much a 10% chance to win the ACC. I like this a lot as we talk more about their roster and kind of what they brought in. Obviously, huge transfer portal, huge recruiting class this year. I really like them in the ACC. I think the ACC is wide open this year with the 12-team format. You're going to get 2 teams, I would say for sure in the ACC, and then maybe even a third, depending on how it shakes out. But I really like Miami's chances in the ACC, and I think their schedule, as we get into their schedule, is going to show that.
Yeah.
But let's get right into kind of what they lost, what they gained in the portal. Obviously, Cam Ward is the biggest addition, probably a top 5 addition in all of the portal. Another player that I don't think we're talking about enough is Damian Martinez, moving over from Oregon State. Yeah. He was their leading rusher over in Oregon State with DJU. Obviously, he's not supposed to be the starter because you got Mark Fletcher coming back.
Yeah, and I know Mark Fletcher was a big 5-star recruit running back. But I would be shocked if Damian Martinez does not lead this team in rushes.
Yeah, I think this is arguably, now this could be a hot take, but this may be a top 5 running back duo in college football.
Okay, I respect that.
I don't think that's crazy.
I thought you were going to say the best, but
no, I don't think it's the best. I think it's a top 5 to 10 though. You bring back Francis Mauigoa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. He was a big 5-star
Yep.
offensive lineman in 2023 class. So he's going to be one of the better offensive linemen in the ACC. Xavier Restrepo, one of the best slot receivers in college football. He comes back. Veteran presence for Cam Ward to kind of get used to on this Miami roster. Obviously, Jacoby George. You had Colby Young leave to go to Georgia. Obviously, he's gone. Cameron Kitchens, he was the best safety in the ACC last year. He goes to the draft. You lose Tyler Van Dyke, but obviously you upgrade from Cam Ward. So I don't think that's a big deal. But I think really looking at this screen, the biggest takeaway, and this might be a surprise to some people, but to me, it's the recruiting class. You had a top 5 class, and you're really back to the pinnacle of, what Miami football means. You had 3 5-star recruits. You had the number 1 ACC class, and you had a top 5 class overall. So the fact that you're out recruiting everybody in your conference, and you had the best transfer portal of anybody in your conference, then I think that's a very big deal as far as the direction that the program is going to go. Obviously, we're looking at the coach as a coach who needs to kind of step his way up. But I would be very, very shocked if this team was not in national, I wouldn't say national. Let me rephrase that. In conference championship conversations come week 10, 11. I'd be shocked if they weren't in playoff conversations come week 10 and week 11.
Now, you mentioned the recruits coming in as a big deal, but I think they did a good job of replacing the players that they lost. Again, you talked about Tyler Van Dyke, but you get Cam Ward, a guy who threw for 3,700 yards plus last year. That is an upgrade, especially when you put him with the weapons that they have versus what they had in Washington State. And when I mention those weapons, this is exactly what you said. Xavier Restrepo, and I don't know how you say that.
Okay, no, we're not going to do this. Xavier Restrepo. There you go. Because you got grilled last year with the Miami preview.
His name is Restrepo.
They was grilling you.
You're talking about a 1,000-yard receiver there. George, as you mentioned, that's about a 900-yard receiver there. I don't think Cam Ward has played with weapons like that. Mention what he has in the backfield. Like I said, Mark Fletcher was a big, high-class recruit. He split carries last year with Parrish. We just talked about Parrish with Ole Miss. So he only got 100 carries last year. But I think he's going to get more than that. The question, though, is what happens with Damian Martinez? Again, a 1,000-plus yard running back, a true one bell cow type running back. Those two in the backfield. Again, I don't think Cam Ward has played with players like that. So I think what they're bringing back is just as big as that recruiting class. Sam Brown coming over from Houston gives them a very good third receiver. And really where they made their mark in terms of the transfer portal is on defense. They brought in a bunch of good defensive players. You have some listed there, Tyler Barron, Marley Cook, but they have probably 5 or 6 players from the portal that are going to be starting players for them and this defense next year. I would be surprised if a bunch of the freshmen play this year. I think this is an experienced group. I think they bring back experience, and then I think they were able to fill a lot of their holes with good transfer portal recruits. So I think this is going to be a good team. Just like you said, I'd be shocked if they're not in the ACC championship picture. I'm going to say the picture, right? I if they don't make the championship game, because I think there's 3 or 4 teams that I have vying for ACC championship spots. But if they're not one of those 3 or 4 teams that at the end of the year that we're like, shoot, if this team loses, yada, 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 I'd be shocked. I would not be shocked if they were the ACC champion. And I know we'll talk about their schedule here in a second.
So to get into the schedule, I want to go first here.
Oh.
Now listen, I really want to beat the drum here on Miami. I'm not a Miami fan, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, I should say, because we may have some women and females here who watch the channel, so I don't want to strictly say fellas. I am a big-time Clemson fan. I am a diehard Clemson fan. I have Miami going 11-1 this year. I have them being perfect in conference play. I think Miami loses at Florida, again, in the swamp. I think I had a conversation with someone else outside of the channel, and they thought I was crazy for thinking that. But I think Florida's going to be a pretty good team this year as well. I think going to go play at the swamp is a hostile environment for anyone. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm more shocked by your 11-1, which I'll be honest, I'm not shocked by the 11-1. I'm more shocked by the team that you have them losing to.
Well, so this is the way I see it. So we did the Florida State video, and those of you guys who saw the video saw that I had Miami beating Florida State. So we already did a video, so that shouldn't be shocking because this is already something that we've talked about on the channel. I think Miami is a better team than Florida State, and I have Miami beating them. I don't think Louisville is going to be as good as we saw them be last year, and I was very high on Louisville last year. I don't think Florida State is a better team than Florida, but I think when you have to travel to Gainesville and play in the swamp on opening day, Florida fans have not seen a football game in a year. I think that's going to be massive. Miami, Florida is a good rivalry type game. I think they're going to be rocking in the swamp. And again, I think Florida is a team that a lot of people have slept on because the last couple of years they haven't been good. But I think Graham Mertz is one of the most veteran quarterbacks in college football. And if he can manage the game and use the crowd to his advantage, I think Florida's going to win this game. But with that being said, I do have Florida winning this game, but I have Miami running the table after. And I have them going to the AC title game and playing against Clemson in the AC title game. I don't know who I would pick in that game. We just saw Miami win in double overtime last year. I'm obviously always going to ride for Clemson. But at the end of the day, I think Miami's a really good team. And I would not be surprised if Miami won the ACC. And I'm also going to say this. I have Miami going to the playoffs this year, whether it's the ACC title, the ACC entrant as the automatic bid or as an at-large team that gets selected. Based on their schedule, in my opinion, Miami has the easiest path in the ACC to make the playoffs. The fact that you play a team like Florida in your out-of-conference game and Clemson has to play a team like Georgia out of their conference game, that's a huge difference. Florida State has to play Notre Dame in their out-of-conference game. I think Notre Dame is supremely better than Florida. So when you look at the three teams that's leading the pack in the ACC, I think Florida is the easiest opponent of the Clemson, Florida State, Miami kind of out-of-conference juggernauts they have to play. And then you look at the rest of the schedule, Florida A&M, Ball State, USF. I think if they are able to, again, I'm picking Florida to beat them. If they're able to beat Florida, I think they're going to be 7-0 heading into the Florida State game. And if they beat Florida State, this team will be undefeated by the end of the year.
Yeah, I will say I think they're going to beat Florida pretty bad. I like Graham Mertz, but I think Florida has lost too much. Again, ETN, and we'll talk about Florida when we get to their video. I think this team, again, brings back a lot of their talent. And then add it to that, I think, as you talk about Graham Mertz being a veteran quarterback, I think Cam Ward's a veteran quarterback. This is a guy who, again, 3 different teams, but he has been playing college football for a while. I think he'll be able to pick this system up quick. I think the system is really going to be suited for him. This is a dual threat guy, and he can throw the ball. And like I said, he has weapons. You talked about that great running room. I think that's what you lean on until the passing game gets going, if there are any concerns. Now, on the flip side of what you just said, I think Louisville is going to be a very tough game. I think that game is going to be a game that's rocking. And again, I haven't looked at the schedules and what game is game day and if this is a night game or whatever. But I think Louisville fans are coming off of a very good season. I think they're going to have high expectations. I think this is going to be one of their early big games, and I think they're going to be out there and they're going to be rocking. And then Florida State is just bringing back a lot of talent. So those are the 2 teams that I have them losing to. Like I said, I absolutely expect, and I have not looked at the entire ACC, so I can't say right now what I expect for the playoffs, but I absolutely expect Miami to be in that picture, and I would not be surprised if they were the ACC champ.
I also want to say this, though. I think when it comes to Miami, I think coaching has to be supremely better. You had critical mistakes, obviously, against Georgia Tech last year, and I think that's why I have the floor so low, is Miami's kind of known to drop games that they shouldn't. They should not, like,
that's a fact.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they started this season 3-2 with losses to Florida and Virginia Tech. I wouldn't be surprised. And then if they finish 7-5, it's not like, well, like they were supposed to go to the playoffs. Like I think people would just be like, Miami's being Miami again. Like, and again, that's not me trying to be disrespectful because I have the team going 11-1. But last year I had them going 9-3. And obviously they were 2 games under that. And I give them a lot of credit. And this team is going to be a lot better than the team that was here last year. I think you bring over arguably the best running back, if not the second or third best running back from the Pac-12 last year in Damian Martinez. You bring over arguably the second, third, maybe 4th quarterback in the Pac-12 last year. A guy who's probably a top 5 quarterback heading into the season.
One of the top returning,
Yeah, so he's at minimum a top 5 quarterback heading into this year. So I think realistically, the playoffs is the expectations. It's not a 9-3 or 10-2 type season. You want to win the ACC. I'm pretty sure you have either the second or third best odds to win the ACC. And the fact that Clemson has so many question marks and Florida State has so many question marks, this is really, in my opinion, Miami's window to kind of solidify themselves back, quote unquote, back in the ACC and national championship picture. I think if looking at the schedule, I'd probably favor them in 10, if not 11 of these games. They should be the favorite. The only game that I could say they're for sure probably going to be the underdog is Florida State. And I would say it's probably going to be like a 3 or 4 point underdog. But
yeah, that's the only game I think
Louisville might be close. Louisville might be close, and Florida may be close. But I haven't looked at the lines. But I would say at minimum Florida State. So you got to feel confident as a Miami fan to say this team has a realistic chance to not only win the ACC but get a playoff berth. And again, even with, like we talked about with the recruiting, I think not only this year, Cam Ward's obviously going to go to the NFL after this year, but I think when you look at the recruiting in the last 2 years, the program is heading in the right direction. But I just think they need to take that leap of making that playoff push, even if they were a first round exit, just getting your name out there to show that recruits like
be in that conversation.
Yeah, like Miami is going to put you in position to play in the big time games. Yeah, so that's one thing that I'm interested to see. I hope, again, I'm a Clemson fan, but college football is always better when like the blue bloods are better. Like I want to see like Oklahoma, USC, Miami, Texas, now that they're back. I want to see them at the top of the college football because I think Miami has one of the most rabid fan bases. They have, I would say, a top 10 fan base or so in college football. So just when they're better, obviously there's more people in tune with the sport. So it'll be kind of interesting. But let us know in the comment section what you guys think. If I'm a little bit too high on them, what you guys think about their season, how they're unfolding. What did you have them going last year? We're going to continue to put out these previews. We're obviously going to do the Auburn one coming in the next 2 days. So look forward to that. If you haven't already, please turn on post notifications so you don't miss a single upload. We will be doing everybody's favorite videos or favorite teams in these videos. Drop down below what other teams you guys want to see as well. What other type of content you want to see. We're going to be doing live shows as well as the season kind of gets underway here in the next 2 months. But we will see you guys during the Auburn preview. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.